Hello everyone. It's James again. And today I wanted to answer a question that has been asked by several of my subscribers. And that question is: why do narcissists do the divide and conquer technique or scam on people? And the answer is simple, but with a lot of layers on it that make it complex. So complex. Our entire world is caught up in this toxic dynamic that many people just can't see. Well, I have to admit, many are waking up. However, many are still asleep. Willfully and unknowingly asleep. So what's the simple answer? Well, the simple answer is: narcissists just need supply. A never-ending, flowing stream of narcissistic supply. It's that simple. And to add to that, conning people they had nothing to do with the problem and are blameless is icing on the cake. I mean, to walk into a situation and get two people or more to be at each other's throat, and to be able to walk away being blameless is one heck of a high for the narcissist. It makes them feel all-powerful and above the law, and that they can literally do anything and get away with it. So what is the old divide and conquer trick? Well, it's what I like calling two between the middle. It's one person, the narcissist, in the middle of two people, acting as the puppet master, and slowly turning them against each other. Here's an example. Everywhere my mother went, couples would get divorced. I mean, within a year or two of my mother so-called becoming friends with a particular couple, they would be soon headed for Splitsville. And I know and believe this wasn't an accident. Now, I don't know what kind of relationship these people had before my mother met them. But I know one thing about my mother. She likes to manipulate people for sport. Especially good people that are naive and trusting. Now, would my mother turn down certain situations to manipulate people? And the answer is rarely. But sometimes she would turn down the chance to pull her tricks, because she knew certain people might have come from a tight-knit family and her scam would be uncovered rather easily. And everyone would reveal what type of person my mother really was and is. So my mother was somewhat careful on who she chose to do the divide and conquer technique on. That being said, once my mother pulled her routine or scam on these people, there were some that my mother kept in their web after their divorce. And there were many that finally figured out the evil behind my mother and want nothing to do with her. That being said, these people don't know everyone my mother knows. So they can't tell this person or that person about my mother's behavior. You see, narcissists are very good at listening to your life story and figuring out if you're going to be a threat to them or not once their cover is blown. Again, sometimes they walk away blameless, like I mentioned in the beginning. And sometimes their cover is blown. An experienced narcissist will do their best to minimize damage to themselves by picking victims that don't know a lot of people they can talk to about this abuse or divide and conquer scam my mother would be running. So what is the scam? Well, it's just another form of the narcissist smear campaign. That's all. But it's with the intent on getting two parties to fight and war against each other, while the narcissist sits back and watches, and pretends to be the savior, and acting as a helper, only to make things much worse. What my mother would do is meet a nice couple at a lounge up the street she would often go to. She would talk to the woman like she was the saint of all saints. She would show up to the lounge one night bringing them freshly baked pies. Before you knew it, they were talking on the phone all the time. And that's where the trouble would start. You see, narcissists are masters at putting doubt into your head. And they will say little things that will get their victims' wheels turning, so to speak. So when they would get off the phone, they would go and implement what my mother was putting in their head, in their relationship with their husband or wife. And none of what my mother put in these people's heads was any good. And before you know it, you have a couple at odds with one another. And my mother in the middle playing marriage counselor to a problem she more than likely created. And if the scapegoat in this dynamic catches on and tells my mother to leave them the hell alone, The golden child in this dynamic will say how nice my mother is. How she's just trying to help. How she baked them pies, so forth and so on. Because during this scam, my mother would pick the winner and the loser. Just like in a professional wrestling match. And the winner in her eyes. She made sure this person only witnessed good behavior. I mean, she would bend over backwards for this person. So when the loser in this situation would catch on, there was no way they could convince their husband or wife to cut my mother loose. And the more they tried this, the more of a bad guy or girl they looked. Now, what's funny? Well, not really. But I'm sure you get my meaning. Is all the while my mother was doing this to her so-called friends. Or new friends she was just meeting. She was doing this to myself and my golden child brother. Or there would be times she would just become an absentee mother. Well, she was always an absentee mother. But she was just around a lot less physically. Because she was in the middle of someone else's drama. And weirdly enough, when she would be somewhat disconnected with causing as much chaos in the home. Because she was causing chaos with others. I felt a slight bit of relief. It's sad to admit that. But if my mother was around, I knew drama was to follow. But like clockwork, within a year or two of every couple my mother befriended, they always ended up divorced. And my mother somehow was knee-deep in all of it. But claimed she had no knowledge of what was going on and had nothing to do with it. But with this knowledge on narcissism and narcissistic abuse, it was always about narcissistic supply and power. Power over other lives. And watching them jump to the beat of your drum without knowing that's what they are really doing. Now, as I explained, this happened to me as well. Not only with my golden child brother, but also any friends I might have. Or decent women I might meet. My mother would insert herself in the middle of said relationship and play two between the middle. Again, just another term for the smear campaign. My mother would contact these people on her own. And tell them to not tell me that she called. As I mentioned before, she would say she was planning a surprise party for me. Or some other lame excuse. For a grown woman to be calling her son's friends. And before you know it, these people started to not like me. They would argue with me for no reason. And before you knew it, they were gone out of my life. And all the while, I would be walking around the house, saying out loud, I don't know why this friend is treating me this way. And my mother would act and play dumb like she didn't know either. But the fact was, she knew. She knew all along. Because watching me in misery for losing friends from my life, opportunities or chances at success, or decent women that I had a chance to date, she loved to watch me on the losing end of the stick. And the way to always make that happen is divide and conquer. This is why no contact is so important. And if you are low contact, because we are all in different places in our recovery, do yourself the biggest favor in your life. Don't tell this narcissist so-called family member anything about who you spend your time with. Never ever 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 ever. If you have kids, don't bring them around narcissist. Grandma or grandpa. Don't let them talk on the phone alone with them. Move out of state if you have to, as many have done to keep their children safe. Because the narcissist parent in this instance will insert themselves right in the middle and rip you and your children's lives apart. And that's usually done by turning the child against you, the parent. You see, in this dynamic, there's usually some grooming or golden child prep work done. Meaning, they bake pies and cakes. They buy gifts and give money. They say how much they cry and miss them. They send handwritten notes and cards. And the list goes on and on. And the person receiving this will say to themselves, how can anyone that does such nice things be such a bad person? And because that's what they believe, they are now ripe for the brainwashing to take place. Even if it's against their own mother and or father. I've heard story after story of grandparents that are narcissist. that take advantage of low-contact children that have children of their own, that feel bad they haven't met grandma or grandpa yet. Before you know it, divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. So what do you do? If you are low contact, don't tell them a thing. Let's say you are single and have no kids. And 3 years from now you're married and have a child. And you speak to your narcissist mother or father briefly because they are sick. Don't tell them you're married and don't tell them you have a child. For those of you that watch Star Wars, treat your child like it's Luke Skywalker and you have to hide him from Darth Vader. Because your narcissist parents will try to turn your own children to the dark side if you won't go to the dark side. Even if you have to make up a story to hide your children from these monsters, do it. Because if you break and choose to bring your children around these evil beings, it might seem great for a little while. Everyone is laughing and having a great time. Because that's what the narcissist does to fool you. But before you know it, divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. The oldest trick in the book. And it's the oldest trick because it works. But since we know better, we have to do better. We have to stop letting it work. By being careful with those we share important information about our lives with. And when we feel like someone isn't right, get away. And if we think we come from a narcissistically abusive family, go no contact if you can. And if you can't, keep everyone you care about away from these people at all cost. Because if you don't, divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. Basically, when they are dividing, they are isolating or sectioning this person off from the truth. And feed them half-truths and half-lies. And when they conquer, they are out to rule, destroy, and become the master of. And any time a narcissist has the power to turn their own children against their parents, or cause a couple to get divorced, or on a bigger scale, to have gangs in our inner cities shoot each other when they should be loving each other, or countries wanting to war against each other for foolish reasons, the narcissist, or narcissists on the top of the pyramid, feels like they are all powerful. And it feeds into their God complex. They think they are God. And their divide and conquer campaign goes on and on. Because these evil beings can't stop. They are literal energy supply needing junkies. If they don't have supply, they will make sure they find a way to get it. And if you have family members or friends, or countrymen, you can constantly turn one against another. And that's why this information is so important. So you stop giving these evil beings chances. Stop letting them into your life. It's okay to be somewhat private. It's okay to not befriend everyone you don't know. It's okay to be careful. And on a bigger scale, I pray and wish those young children and men and women that are growing up fighting against another neighborhood just because someone told them they had to do that. Open your eyes. These people don't love you. Yes, true, maybe. Your narcissist mother and father doesn't love you either. But don't let the fact that your parents may be bad people let you fall into a so-called friendship with someone that is going to act like your friend today and ask you to do something evil tomorrow. All because someone at the top of the pyramid socially engineered it to be this way. Narcissists love to divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. Divide and conquer. Look around and you will see it everywhere you go. Don't let it get you to be paranoid. Let it make you sharp and focused to have an awesome life. Because you know the purpose of the narcissist is to drag you down. To prevent you from being successful. And if you do become successful, and you make good friends, or have a good wife or husband, or have wonderful children, they will divide and conquer. And why are they doing this? Because they are a narcissist, that's why. And what's the narcissist's favorite food? It's called narcissistic supply. And this supply is the same no matter if it's in your house, your neighborhood, or the world. Well, that's all I have for now. I hope my answer helped. Please let me know your thoughts in the description box below. Because the more we share, the more we grow. Because like I always say, knowledge and wisdom is power. The more we know, the more we can lead happy and healthy lives. Until next time. Bye for now. And be good to yourself. Oh. And P.S. If you want to see what divide and conquer looks like up close, look at the current state of man and woman relationships. Don't think for 1 second it's the way it is by accident. It appears to be manufactured. And who's doing this divide and conquer manufacturing, you might ask? It's the narcissists behind the curtain. The ones on the top of the pyramid that hate everything about human life, human love, and the Most High God that created us in His image.